Today we're talking about a very important book. Literally, this book reprogrammed my mind. Dr. Maxwell Maltz believed that your self-image controls more of your behavior than motivation, discipline, or desire. And whether you want to accept it or not, you are the immaculate conception of your self-image. This is not about the mantras you read aloud, the affirmations you repeat, or the things you say you believe. This is about the quiet voice underneath all that. The voice you try to deny because it reveals what you actually believe about yourself. The internal dialogue is a direct reflection of your self-image. And the new psycho-cybernetics teaches us that you do not consistently act from what you want. You act from who you truly believe you are. Dr. Maxwell Maltz was a plastic surgeon who noticed something most people were missing. Some people could change their appearance and still feel like the same rejected, insecure, unworthy person on the inside. The observation became the foundation of the new psycho-cybernetics. The central idea is simple. Your self-image is not just how you think about yourself. It is the internal picture your behavior keeps obeying. So, in this video, we're looking at why changing your life can feel so difficult when your identity has not caught up to the person you say you want to become. If you spent years believing that the reason you don't finish what you start is due to a lack of discipline or laziness, stop doing that. Research has repeatedly linked procrastination to emotional regulation and short-term mood repair. That means you're not necessarily avoiding the work. You're avoiding the emotional part of your creative process. That's why your routines and resolutions fall apart. The emotional pattern underneath them never gets addressed. Me and Romani Malco will be hosting a live 90-minute workshop breaking down the 3 emotional blind spots, crippling your follow-through, and a blueprint for what to do about them. And yes, it's live, 90-minute workshop, so none of this multitasking and half-assing the work. If you're ready to be held emotionally accountable so you can start getting things done, I dare you to click the link in the description. Let's get back to the program. Some of y'all are not suffering because you lack ambition. You're suffering because your self-image still thinks wanting more makes you somebody you're not allowed to be. And I know that sounds crazy until peace show up in your life and your nervous system start treating it like a setup. I was that guy. There was a point in my relationship where I was so used to tension, pressure, and emotional defense that peace did not feel deserved. Peace felt suspicious. Love felt like it had a trick clause hidden in the paperwork. I could be sitting in a relationship with somebody who was not trying to destroy me and still behave like I needed to keep my helmet on in the living room. Keep in mind, in a previous video, I spoke about parentification becoming an identity of mine because of the overwhelming amount of adult responsibility imposed on me before the age of 8. I was dealing with just about everything adults deal with by that time. I was 8 years old. Only thing I did not have was a wife and the kids and a mustache. And when you were that young, you do not interpret that like a therapist. You interpret that like a child. You don't say, these adults are emotionally limited. You don't say, this is neglect. You don't say, I am being forced to manage a life I did not create. No, you calculate. You look around and see other kids being picked up, protected, checked on, defended, nurtured, and watched over. And you look at your own life. You getting punched in the face, beat with a bicycle tire, screamed at, left outside till 2 in the morning, left to fend for self, while other people's parents are looking at you like, where the hell your parents at? Don't you got school tomorrow? And over time, that child starts doing the math. Well, hell, if they parents is invested in them and mine ain't that invested in me, then maybe I'm not worth protecting. Maybe I am not worth showing up for. Maybe I'm not worth that degree of attention. Maybe I'm not worth that degree of nurture. That's how a self-image starts forming before you know what a self-image is. And because I believed nobody was coming, I became hyper-independent, self-sufficient, protective. But I also became angry and controlling. Because when you grow up believing nobody is coming, control starts feeling like safety. You start managing everything within your reach because anything unmanaged might hurt you, embarrass you, abandon you, disappoint you, or reinforce the negative beliefs already running around in your childhood mind like roaches with shoes on. Type bars in the comments if you get that. And those thoughts attract more thoughts, more interpretations, more evidence, more internal dialogue, more reasons to believe the problem is you. And all of that forms what we now understand as self-image. But here's where it got dangerous. That self-image did not stay in childhood. It followed me into my relationship. The same little boy who believed nobody was coming became the grown man who did not know how to relax when somebody actually showed up. Type bars in the comments if you get that. So now, peace did not feel like peace. Peace felt like a loss of control. Peace felt like vulnerability. peace felt like you better keep one eye open because this is usually the part where life gets cute before it starts acting stupid. That is a miserable way to love somebody because now you are not responding to the person in front of you. You are responding to the internal picture you've been carrying. And I remember getting so frustrated with myself that I had a drink, sat with what was really happening, and had to tell myself the truth. The problem was not just the relationship. The problem was the image I had of myself inside the relationship. I did not see myself as someone significant in a relationship unless I was being useful. I did not see myself as someone who could set and enforce boundaries. I did not see myself as someone who could receive. I did not see myself as someone who could be with someone who was not both emotionally and financially dependent on me. Those revelations hit different because they explain why a person can say they want peace, love, money, stability, and growth, but still keep acting like those things do not belong to them. That is where Maltz started making sense. Because the new psycho-cybernetics is not just talking about goals. It's talking about the internal picture. It tells your behavior what feels normal, what feels dangerous, and what feels like it belongs to you. Maltz's whole point was that your behavior does not just follow your goals, your behavior follows your self-image. That means the picture you carry of yourself internally will keep pulling your actions back into agreement with that picture. So if you see yourself as unwanted, you can be loved and still look for evidence that rejection is coming. If you see yourself as broke, you can make money, make more money, and still behave like stability is temporary. If you see yourself as insignificant, you can still be in a relationship and still only feel valuable when you are being useful, needed, or dependent on. That is the part people miss. They think the problem is desire. I want better. I want peace. I want discipline. I want success. I want love. I want consistency. Wanting is not the problem. The problem is when what you want contradicts who you believe you are. Type bars in the comments if you get that. Bars! The moment your goal starts disagreeing with your self-image, your nervous system starts acting like progress is a threat. That is a self-image trying to protect itself from a life it has not learned how to recognize. Type bars in the comments if you get that. This is where the new psycho-cybernetics gets practical. Dr. Maxwell Maltz was saying that the mind operates like a goal-seeking mechanism. But here's the part people love to skip. That mechanism does not just chase what sounds good, it moves towards what's believable. It moves towards what matches the internal target. You can yell affirmations until your mirror files a noise complaint, but if the picture inside you has not changed, your behavior is going to keep returning to the identity it recognizes. Bars! That is why external change does not automatically change the person. Type bars in the comments if you get that. That is what Dr. Maxwell Maltz noticed as a plastic surgeon. Some people change their face and still carry the same rejected person inside because the outside changed, but the internal picture stayed loyal to the old story. And that is the thesis of this whole video. Until your self-image changes, your behavior will keep trying to drag your future back into agreement with your past. Let me tell you something they do not put on the motivational posters. Before you ever had a chance to decide who you were, somebody else already filling out the paperwork. When you were a kid, you were not sitting around analyzing belief systems. You were not downloading information. Every day, the people around you were teaching you what the world was, what was possible, and most importantly, who you were supposed to be in it. Now, most of the time, that information came from your parents. Not because they were evil masterminds running a psychological operation. They were just passing down what they believed. Their fears, their assumptions, their limitations, their understanding of how life works. And if they believed the world was dangerous, you probably learned to see danger everywhere. If they believed money was hard to get, you probably learned to recognize struggle as normal. If they spent their whole life surviving, you might look at opportunity and call it unrealistic because survival feels more familiar. See, this is where Dr. Maxwell Maltz was dropping gems. Your mind is not just reacting to reality. Your mind is interpreting reality through the picture you already have of yourself. That self-image becomes a filter. It tells you what to pay attention to. It tells you what to ignore. It tells you what belongs to people like you and what belongs to people you think you are different from. Type bars in the comments if you get that. Two people can be standing in front of the exact same opportunity and one sees a doorway while the other one sees a wall. Why is that? Because people do not recognize reality as it is. They recognize reality as they are. Bars! Type bars in the comments if you get that. And the crazy part is most of this programming got installed before you were old enough to question any of it. So now you got grown adults walking around making decisions based on beliefs they've never consciously chose. They inherited them. Not just beliefs about money, success, relationships, or failure. They inherited a way of interpreting reality itself. And until you examine that programming, your self-image will keep deciding what you notice, what you ignore, what you think belongs to you, and what you swear is impossible. Not just because it is impossible, because your current self does not recognize it as something meant for you. Now it'd be a good time to hit that like button if you like something. And if you're motivated as hell, hit that notification bell. But if you really want to see this channel grow, I'm going to need y'all to hype this video and share it with your folks. Now let's get back to the program. Now, what I just walked you through was the household version of self-image. But it did not stop in the household. The household gave me one image of myself. America handed me another one. And if you grew up black in this country, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You are not just dealing with what your parents did or did not give you. Teachers, media, police, classrooms, fake history, neighborhood conditions, the way people look at you before they know you, the way this country can treat a black child like a threat before that child even understands what a threat is. And the trick is, America does not always have to say you are less than. Sometimes it just has to highlight certain information, omit other information, repeat the same images, then let your mind finish the sentence. That is how bias gets polite. That's how propaganda puts on a sweater vest and calls itself a talking point. Bars. Now, it would be convenient to pretend that this was all hyperbole, but studies going back to the 1940s, including the CLARKE studies, show how American racial conditioning could shape the self-perception of black children. Those children were not just learning race, they were learning value. They were learning who gets associated with beauty, goodness, safety, intelligence, worth. And that kind of conditioning does not just disappear because you grow up, pay bills, and get a password manager. That stuff can get into your self-image. And it does not only happen through insults, it happens through disparity. Current Federal Reserve data shows that typical black family wealth is nowhere near typical white family wealth. The difference is not small. It is generational. It is structural, historical, but America will still look at that disparity and tell you the problem is laziness, inadequacy, lack of discipline, lack of education, no ambition, no family values, promiscuity. And when you hear that message long enough, you can start interpreting systemic failure as personal failure. Type bars in the comments if you get that. That is how a system gets inside your self-image. But here's where the trick gets loud. The same country that has no problem talking about black violence suddenly gets real careful when the violence is white. When the violence takes place in black America, America wants to discuss culture, family structure, rap music, fatherlessness, morals, values, personal responsibility. America says, yo, dog, what is wrong with black culture? But when white boys, schools full of children, churches, grocery stores, concerts, workplaces, and public spaces, America does not rush to say what is wrong with the white family unit. They do not call it white-on-white crime. They do not ask why white communities keep producing this kind of violence. They do not say, where are the white fathers? They do not say, what is wrong with white values? They do not ask why white households keep failing to prevent mass violence. No, they individualize it. They medicalize it. They humanize it. They contextualize it. White violence gets a biography. Black violence gets a truncated headline. Bars. White violence gets childhood photos, warning signs, mental health language, stressors, isolation, family trouble, and a panel discussion about what went wrong. Black violence gets a mugshot, a neighborhood label, and somebody in a suit saying, we need to talk about personal responsibility. Same country, different lens. And that lens matters because people do not just respond to facts. They respond to the story built around the facts. That is how the public story becomes a private image. That is how a child starts absorbing a message nobody technically had to say out loud. The data America popularizes is selective. The Bureau of Justice Statistics data showed that from 2008 to 2012, poor white people experienced non-fatal violent victimization at a rate of 46.4 per thousand. Poor black people experienced that 43.4 per thousand. Based on the data, how did the term black-on-black crime become a key talking point on mainstream media before white-on-white crime? Oh wait, white-on-white crime never became a talking point on mainstream media? Never? You sure? Okay, interesting. If poverty and violence are connected, why does the public story keep turning black poverty into proof that black people are broken? Why does the public story keep turning black poverty into a cultural disease? Why does white poverty get context but black poverty gets character assassination? That is the part I want you to catch. The story gets radicalized before it gets contextualized. So by the time a black child hears the message, he is not hearing poverty increases risk. She is not hearing proximity shapes violence. He is not hearing resource deprivation changes community outcome. She is not hearing the average black household holds roughly 1/6 of the wealth of the average white household. He is not hearing every community has dysfunction that deserves context. What we hear is people like you is the problem. And if you hear that long enough, especially before your self-image is fully formed, that poison can start sounding like your own thoughts. That poison can become your identity. And as a black man who grew up in the South, I am telling you, that contributed to my self-image, my negative self-image, my sense of unworthiness, my lack of self-worth, my sense of inadequacy. So I was not only dealing with the household version of it, I was dealing with the American version of it. And that is very difficult to combat as a child. It is very difficult to build a healthy self-image when you are 10 years old walking down the street with your dad and white kids just yelling, "Look, ninjas, ninjas," and throwing rocks at you. Because at 10 years old, you do not have the language to say, this is racial conditioning. You do not say, this country is projecting its sickness onto me. You do not say, this is a distorted social mirror. No, you absorb it. You personalize it. You sometimes embody it. And what is sad is that a lot of you are contending with your own version of this. Maybe not the same details, maybe not the same childhood, maybe not the same South, but the same mechanisms. Type bars in the comments if you get that. Bars! You had experiences that gave you an image of yourself. Then you grew up and started calling that image your personality. But we are not here to dwell. We are not here to divide. We are here to identify and rectify. That's what makes this channel so dangerous. Ain't nobody looking for social handouts. Ain't nobody looking for social acceptance. Ain't nobody waiting on systemic relief. No, I promote we do what we need to do. Because if we can identify where the self-image came from, we can stop worshiping it like it's the truth. You can want success all day, but if your self-image still thinks struggle is your natural habitat, peace and money gonna likely feel unattainable. Type bars in the comments if you get that. Look, if you ain't figured it out by now, the real reason you keep stalling on your goals has nothing to do with how disciplined, motivated, or focused you is. Men hate it when I say this, but your failure to commit to your ideas and even your dreams is an emotional issue. Don't take my word for it. Research has been confirming this for over 2 decades. Look up the Tyson-Brud-Slavsky study, the Sorois and Peichel study. You are not avoiding the task. You're not even avoiding accountability. What you are avoiding is emotional discomfort. Yes, women too. That's the real reason your follow-through is garbage. You don't need another planner. You need emotional awareness. Romani Malcolm and I are hosting a live 90-minute workshop where we expose the emotional blind spots sabotaging most people's progress, and we hand you the exact playbook to get you active on your ideas. Show up ready to take notes and be called on. This ain't no replay. We live. If you done sleeping on your own ambition and need some real ones to wake your ass up, the link is in the description. Here's the part Maltz understood that most self-help skips. Your self-image is not just a belief. It's a permission system. It decides what you are allowed to receive without suspicion, what you are allowed to pursue without guilt, what you are allowed to become without feeling like a fraud. This is why a man can say he wants love, then interrogate love when it arrives. This is why a woman can find Mr. Right and then devotes her life to trying to prove him wrong. A man can say he wants peace, then feel useless the moment nobody needs him to carry the emergency. This is not always character. Sometimes that is identity jurisdiction. Your behavior stays inside the territory your self-image recognizes. That is the thesis. Maltz was saying the mind is a goal-seeking mechanism, but it does not chase goals in a vacuum. It moves towards what the self-image accepts as believable. Type bars in the comments if you get that. Now, once you understand that self-image controls what you recognize, Maltz starts talking about imagination. And this is where people get childish. They hear imagination and start acting like all they have to do is close their eyes, picture a Lamborghini, and wait for the universe to drop some keys in their lap. No, that is not psycho-cybernetics. That is adult peekaboo with a vision board. Maltz was not telling people to fantasize. He was pointing to something more practical. Your imagination rehearses identity. The picture you keep seeing internally, start teaching your mind what feels possible, familiar, and believable. So if the only picture you keep rehearsing is yourself failing, getting rejected, and being broke, getting embarrassed, being abandoned, being disrespected, or being exposed, your behavior starts preparing for the picture before life even gives you evidence. That is why some of you walk into opportunities already emotionally dressed for disappointment. You have not even failed yet, but your mind already packed a bag. You walk in like, let me not get too excited. Let me not care too much. Let me not try too hard. Let me not get my hopes up. You are not being realistic. You are rehearsing rejection, so rejection feels less surprising. That is not wisdom. That is emotional insurance fraud. Buzz! Matter of fact, type bars in the comments if you get that. The point of imagination is not to pretend your life is perfect. The point is to practice a new internal picture before real life tests you. So you have to rehearse seeing yourself differently, not magically, not delusionally, practically. You rehearse seeing yourself receive without guilt, complete without panic, belong without shrinking, speak without apologizing for existing, lead without pretending you are not scared, earn without feeling like money is about to expose you, love without needing chaos to prove it is real. That is not fantasy. That is training the internal picture. This is the lesson. External change can give you evidence, but it cannot force identification. Type bars in the comments if you get that. A new circumstance can say, look, your life is different now, but your self-image still has to believe this belongs to me. So the question is not just, what do you want? The deeper question is, who do you believe you are allowed to be once you get it? And that is where the new psycho-cybernetics becomes dangerous in the right hands. Because once you realize the self-image can be formed, you also realize it can be challenged. If experience helped build it, new experiences can help revise it. If repetition helped install it, new repetition can help replace it. If a distorted picture trained your behavior, a clearer picture can start retraining it. But not by lying to yourself, not by pretending, not by standing in the mirror saying, I am powerful, while your internal voice is in the back saying, powerful where? In this apartment with these unpaid bills? No. The work is more honest than that. You have to identify the image. You have to understand where it came from. You have to stop treating it like truth just because it feels familiar. And then you have to begin committing to thought inventory, visualizing and living from a corrected picture long enough for your behavior to recognize the new identity as home. And I believe this video was a step in the right direction.